What was the story that you had to remember about Neil?
Well, we lived in this three-room apartment. Next to us was another three-room apartment, and she had a little girl, maybe
Who, the neighbors?
the neighbor, maybe a month younger or 2 months
Yeah.
younger than Neil. You know, we
Her
would
name
live
was
together.
Arlene Goody or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
good
Yeah.
fellow or good
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Look how she reading
I
that.
went to high school with her.
With them.
They were a year ahead of me.
Yeah. Anyway, and I remember we used to go shopping together. We used to go shopping. And at that time, you go into a store with all the sales prices hanging down. And I'd go quietly, and me and Neil, and her, and her little girl, what the hell was her name? Arlene. And she would, and she was always very happy and a lot of noise and everything. And he walked quietly next to me, but he ripped off every sales
Oh, no.
quietly. Never said a word. Never said a word. Ripped off everything. We had to run from the store.
Oh, no.
See, he was always very quiet. He was not a noisy, you know.
What's the worst trouble he ever got in?
Oh, wait a second. What about the screens?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Very quiet.
No,
I
wasn't
never,
screens.
I never got
We
in
lived in
trouble.
this apartment house, and we had a
You're
janitor
making the
who lived
assumption
there
that I was-
who acted like a
I don't think I'm that
manager. You
smart.
know
I
what I
just didn't
mean?
get in trouble.
Right.
And she kept the apartment. It was a garden apartment, and she tried to keep it.
We're telling stories about you.
Yeah, that's why it came out.
And she tried to keep
were
it
videotaping.
very just exactly. You know, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
But we all had children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when she tried to keep it, well, that day you had wallpaper in all the halls and everything. So this here quietly goes to the next hallway.
Let's make sure we know who
and
we're talking
starts
about.
A little wallpaper,
That's who we're talking about.
A little wallpaper, and he rips the whole wallpaper down, the whole thing, and then he knocks at her apartment and gives her the wallpaper.
Oh, no.
And she came running in. Her name was Ferguson. I hated them. Look what he did. But that's what he did quietly. He ripped the whole
And what about
wallpaper
the
down.
screens with the
Yeah,
stick?
and then you see, I had this already. I had Kenny.
You
So
right?
Kenny was inside and he was outside. After all, he was 4 years old. He could play it. In those days, you were very trusting, you know.
Right.
So he's playing outdoors. And behind our place was, nice, playing outdoors, and he found a stick. So he takes the stick and goes to every screen and makes holes in the stick all the way down the whole line, quietly, and never heard a word. And he comes in the house and he sits there, never knew a word. And they start screaming. No, they really love him. That's why I say he never made noise. He was always, and he did everything. He ate like Max eats quietly, eat the meal, and he sits. And he did things nicely. I don't have any trouble with him. He went to sleep when he was supposed to. He really was, I would say, a good kid.
What
but
about
quietly.
Kenny?
I think I got that gene.
But quiet, he was, and he was, let me see what else. He made up,
What about when his room was real dirty?
oh, well,
What did you
that's
do
the
when his
time
room was
that-
dirty?
I told you what he
No, you
did.
have to say it again.
He had a room with a chair, and the chair was green leather.
Green leather.
Green leather chair.
Nice.
And every day, and this was already, he was in high school. Every day he would come home and get a new outfit and throw it on the chair. So once I would say, Neil, clean up. Yeah, Neil, yeah. I would, yell at him because every time I had to pass his room and Kenny's room to get to my room.
And what did Grandpa Phil do? Was that not his department?
Yeah, he yelled, but no, I was the one who was screaming. He yelled. I don't think Dad yelled at you too much, did he? You don't remember Dad yelling to him. Dad's the one who taught him how to do everything.
Yeah.
He's the one who taught him how to swim, taught him how to play ball. He introduced
Ride a
him
bike.
to golf, to bike. He was athletic, and the boys had to be that way. I didn't care, So he even got us a dog. Remember he got dog Peppy? We had dog. He got the dogs for the
Who
kids.
named him?
Huh?
Who named the dog Peppy?
I don't even know who named it. You did, or I don't remember that. We had a dog, Peppy, and we kept him until Neil was married. And Kenny says to me, I don't want to take him out anymore, And so even college already. Kenny did. We had the dog, and Kenny was in Rutgers. So the dog would come and put his nose under the blanket and to his hands or his foot because he had to go in the bathroom. So he would do that, and then Phil had to get out of bed and take him. We lived across the street from a park, and he had to take him. And then he got to the point he didn't want to do it, so he called in one of his accounts. Someone had killed a dog, and they had little children. So he said to them, "I have a dog for you." So he came over, and we played on the floor with the dog. And then slowly I took out the dog's dish, and I gave it to him, took out his leash, and I gave him, and they took the dog was a nice little dog, and he went with them. And that was how I got rid of a dog.
Tell the story. I love the story of Kenny and the tickets in the park.
Oh, yeah, those are terrific.
I don't
You
think
didn't-
I heard
You
that
didn't
one.
say anything. I was throwing my clothes at them.
Yeah,
That's
oh,
what
yeah.
I wanted to hear.
Oh, well,
Finish
one
that
day
story.
I had, I
Green-
think, I had a girl's coming to clean. Now, you can't clean it, there's everything. And I went upstairs. His whole room was laying with clothes. Never hung up a thing. Whatever he wore that week was laying one on top of the other. I got so mad. I said, "God damn it." And I we had a window. Opened the window, took everything and threw it out the window. You know what he did when he came home?
What?
He laughed. That's all he did. He laughed. He went outside, downstairs,
Collected his
outside,
clothes.
and picked up all his clothes. If I remember correctly, I think he hung up after that.
That must have
Right.
changed things. 'cause he's
That
been
yeah,
mean
I
ever
think
since.
he after
Are
that.
you sure he laughed?
Yes, absolutely. Well, he wasn't. He never yelled.
Yeah.
And when I was mad at something, he'd go in and close the door. The worst thing of all was when he met Ruth,
Oh.
and we had.
Wait a second. You
We
need to
had-
phrase that.
Wait, I didn't tell you, Neil. What about the time they never walked? Because I told you the staircase with this wall. They never walked the steps. From the steps, they would jump, hit the wall, and go down.
Neil and Kenny?
Neil, okay, right? Am I wrong or right?
Right.
Okay, never walked. And also, they cleaned out the
Jump down
furniture
steps
when I
with
left because I used to wrestle, right? Cleaned out the whole living room
They would jump
furniture
to the
because I used
landing
to
and then
wrestle
go down the...
when I left.
Yeah, we used to break lamps and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's it. Now, where was I?
Something went wrong with Ruth.
Oh, yes, something went, well, I knew Ruth before he did. She was the one in the library. And every time she saw me, she'd say,
my question,
"No, Mrs.
John."
Hilson." She really stuck up to me. She go, "Hello, Mrs. Hilson," because she knew him. And she knew I was his mother, and I was always in the library.
You remember what you told me about the library yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, the day you always remembered in the library?
Never forget the day the librarian said to me, "You could now take books from downstairs."
Oh,
'Cause upstairs was the children.
The
And
children
She was
thing.
always
And
in
the
the
day
library
she said
because she
to me,
read all
"You
the
could
time.
now take books from
and-
downstairs."
Oh, that
To
was-
me,
You could
that
take
was
the
one of the
grown-up
most
books.
something.
That was
you know,
your acceptance into
I was
adulthood.
I lived on
It was a big
books. I
thing.
remember only books in the library. That was out there almost every day, taking another book or something. Anyway, now what did I tell you about?
So Ruth knew Neil.
All right, so Ruth, he met her in high school. They met in high school. He was in the same class as she was.
Yeah, it
But
was
I knew her because she was worked in the library. And I used to go in the library, and every time I tried, she said to me, "Hello, Mrs. Hilton." I say to him, "There's a nice girl in the library." Of course, he ignored me completely because he didn't want to know for anything like that. He was going, I used to say, "You're going to marry a ball," because he didn't have girlfriends. He only go ball. We lived across from the park, and that's all they did.
They played ball.
Play ball. Any kind of ball you wanted, play ball. Well, I got to tell you, when Kenny got to be about 7 years old, I think about that time, that softball games in that park there, professional softball games. Well, Kenny got himself a business. He went out and he bought Kool-Aid. He made gallons of Kool-Aid with my help, and he bought paper cups. And he had to drag him. He used to pay him money to help him drag in the cans of Kool-Aid.
He had to pay everybody money.
He paid Neil money.
It was a business. It wasn't profitable.
And he did. And he used to make money that way. Or Kenny was a shrewdy.
Yeah.
Kenny. So he did that at that time. All right. Now he meets her. Finally, he gets to meet her through. Who's the guy who lived in your building?
Barry Axelrod.
Barry. Yeah. Somehow or other they were going together. So now we had at that time you had one telephone in the kitchen and one telephone on a landing with the steps where your little hallway where the steps start.
Yeah.
Come out of the bedroom. There's a little hallway, and on this hallway was a little table. And I used to keep a telephone on there so anybody could reach it. Well, what he used to do is take the telephone, sneak it under his doorway, and talk to her for hours, all evening long. He used to talk to her on the telephone. And nobody could call or anything like that until I knew about it. Am I wrong? Am I
You
wrong?
didn't have call waiting back then.
No. No. I used to go in my closet. Take the phone in my closet.
All right, so I remember you do that, and I used to get off that phone, Okay. Now, that's one thing. Now, where else was I going to tell you something
Oh,
about?
tell about Kenny and the tickets.
Oh, yeah. Now,
So
this
funny.
is, Kenny's got to be, he's already in high school. Kenny is maybe 10 years old. He's still in,
Elementary.
no, I think it's younger, because that school only went up to what, 8th grade? 8th grade.
Yes, he was 13.
So he was, so what was he about? And I told you I was into things. We had a fair in the school, and I ran it. And we had rides, and we had things, and we sold tickets, and we had food, and we had this, we had to make money. It was a fundraising for the school. The PTA ran it. So Kenny's with me the whole time, running, reading, and I was very tired. At the end, you have to put everything away and everything. And Kenny finds this roll of tickets, where you snap off
raffle
the ticket.
tickets or whatever.
Whatever. And he says, "Can I have it, Mom?" I said, "You can have it. There's no more use. They're not using that
fair's
anymore.
over."
Forget about it." He said, "All right, I'll keep it." That son of a gun kept that for 4 years. And 4 years later, we had the fair again. I wasn't running it this
It was
time.
the same color.
I wasn't running it at this time. And he comes out and he says, "Mom, look what I have." I said, "How do you know it's the same?" He said, "I checked. The other same." Well, they didn't make money that year. So in the beginning, I remember sitting we had a patio outside, a front patio. You remember? A porch. And I used to sit at the porch, and everybody would, talking. I was sitting there, and he'd come out and he'd say, "Mom, would you like a hot dog?" At first, I would say no. And I said, "Well, all right, if you get me one." Well, the guy's hot dogs, the other soda. Every kid in the block went into there. He went through the whole thing, and they couldn't understand why they didn't make money that year.
I love
Kid,
that.
4 years.
The new car outside.
True.
4 years. He kept that thing. Didn't say a word.
I love that story.
Yeah, well, but it's
That's
it's American.
that's a classic story.
Yeah, classic story. I'm trying to think of all the different things. They don't always come to. Oh, now one thing. I don't know if you remember. They were very big. He was already driving a car. So, did you drive a car in high school, Neil?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
did?
End of high
He was
school.
driving a car, and Kenny was 4 years younger than
Did
him.
he have his own car, or did he drive?
No.
You know,
Grandpa
his own car. You had to work for a car. No, he.
Well, I don't know. After the ticket story,
Yeah, no.
That
Well,
was
Kenny was
Kenny.
4 years younger, so if he was at 17, let's say, Kenny was
13.
13. All right. Now, Dad and I went to Spain. He was that age. I had a next-door neighbor, very close friends, Irene and Marty.
Yeah.
Very close friends. They had children also. And she said, "Don't worry. He's old enough. He can tell you don't have to, you can leave him." He was, I'd say, 18 years old. I left the refrigerator full of food and things, and he's fine. I said, he was good enough. He was sensible enough. I didn't have to worry. Well, he was.
18?
Anyway, 18 or 17. I don't think you were in college, maybe. No, I don't think. I think it was. And anyway, my next door neighbor invited them for dinner, which was very nice one night. Well, of course, they forgot. And they ate a whole meal home. And then Irene calls up and said, "You coming for dinner?" "Yeah, we're coming for dinner." And they went, they ate a whole meal again. Am I right? Yeah, I remember that. They told me about that when I came back.
When you came back?
Yeah.
What was your favorite vacation with Grandpa Phil?
Lately, or in the beginning or lately, don't forget, I went to a lot of countries with him.
You did?
Oh, my
You
God.
traveled internationally a lot?
I was in London twice. I was in Switzerland. I was in France. I was in Russia. I was in Hawaii. I was in Aruba. I was in Mexico. I was in Israel. I was in Spain. I was in Portugal. Canada.
And all around the United
That's a
States.
lot.
That's
Yeah.
a lot.
And all the parks and everything in the United
Oh,
States.
yeah, out west. One of the best trips we ever had. Mostly I went to my girlfriend Ann and her husband, the four of us. One of the best trips we ever had was out west. We flew to Salt Lake City. We rented a car there. We went up to the Canadian mountains.
Rockies.
Yeah, and where Old Faithful was.
Yellowstone.
United States.
Yeah.
Yellowstone.
Yeah, Yellowstone Park. And then we went across all the other parks, came down Olympia, where the I go down and came around there. It took us 3 weeks, but we saw that. To me was my favorite one because I loved Europe and everything, but I love the United States more.
Yeah.
I love the United States
And
more.
your boys were grown when you took that
When
trip?
I took that, they was already. I think you were married.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I think they were married already when I took that
Tell
trip.
about your shoes when you were a little girl, how you had a...
Oh, well, that's
I
sad.
love that.
That's it. When I was a little girl, because one of the times we lived in this, I told you, on the 5th floor in an apartment, we had my mother, my sister, and I all slept in one bedroom, and we had 2 bedrooms that we had 2 boarders in, and they paid rent, and that helped my mother
Make the
pay
rent for all of you.
rent. Now, my mother had a job, and my sister,
She was older.
she was young, much older. She was working on. I remember my sister. I remember my mother. Now she had to go to work, but I didn't go to school for an hour after she went to work. All right. So what she'd do, she would take my feet out of the blanket and put on shoes because they were laces, and I couldn't lace my shoes, so I'd sleep with shoes on for another
She had
hour.
to pre-tie them to go to work. What did she do then for
I
work?
told you, what she did work, she worked in the furriers. At that time, they used to have a small store, furry, they sold fur coats and things. She used to put the linings in. The linings and fur coats. I don't know what, that's what I remember her telling me. And she worked for some people. I remember there were 2 brothers, because I remember going to the store sometimes, you know, to be with her or something. But I remember those shoes, even I remember
I
them.
like that.
That's
story.
really something. That's classic. And I slept for another hour. So my sister was to in with me and woke me up. My sister, and I slept for another hour with the shoes on. So I didn't have a good upbringing at all.
No,
But-
you are lonely.
Very lonely
Yeah.
and very changed. I kept changing
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Good. I think we went to the east side once, went away, came back, went away, came back, about 3 times, each time in a different apartment. The lower east side was a Jewish ghetto, and that's where my mother tended to feel at home. But she got the cheapest or whatever it is, but she'd always come back to that, you know. I had a grandmother, my father's mother.
No, I never heard about that.
Okay, now, in one of the times that we lived in the east side, I was small. I think it's one of my earliest. I was walking. Good. Must have been about maybe 5 or 6. I can't remember school, but this one. Now, my father had a brother. His name was. We were Sherman and they were Simon. I told you when they went to Ellis Island, the 2 brothers were separated. In Ellis Island, you had to go in a line, and each one got written down, registered, each one. So they had one, and they couldn't say their names well. So one they got Simon, and one they got Sherman. Sherman, Sheiman.
Really?
And that's where we lived.
And
That's
that
our
happens
life.
a lot.
And those were the 2 brothers were your
One brother was my father. The
Your
other brother
father
was
and
my
your
uncle.
uncle.
Yeah. Oh, this is
they
great.
came over to Ellis Island.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
everybody did. My mother did too, but this, you know. But anyway, this is the story I got because I knew I had cousins, you know. Well, my father was already dead, but my mother, the Uncle Nathan, that's the Simon, lived
And
with his.
that's where he's Neil Barry. Is that Nathan named after Neil's named after your uncle? Or is that somebody
No,
else?
Neil is named after Phil's father.
Oh,
His name was Nathan.
oh, I knew it was a Nathan.
Yeah, his name was Phil's father. Now, this uncle lived with a wife who was a shrewd. Everybody hated him. He lived, and he had 3 children. They lived on the east side, and my mother was alone, you know. So they weren't too friendly. But one Yeah, they invited us to a Seder dinner. I remember my mother went, my sister and I went. And we had Seder dinner there. Now, 2 blocks away from there, my grandmother lived. This was my father's mother. I saw her twice in my whole life.
What was her name?
I don't know
You
her
don't
name.
remember?
A little old lady, I mean.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I remember about her. I went, my mother took me to visit her, right? And we took a walk outside, and she bought me a chartreuse.
Huh.
You know what a chartreuse
Yeah.
is?
No.
You know,
Yeah.
There's a store called that
whipped
right
cream.
now.
a
Got
chartreuse.
some cake and whipped
Well,
cream.
it was a little sponge cake in a
Sponge cake
cup,
and
and on
whipped
top was whipped cream. And you get chartreuse and maybe what 2 pennies or something. But she bought me, so I remember her
Yeah.
because she bought me a chartreuse.
Right.
A little old lady. That's the only time I ever saw her.
Wow.
And so we went to the Seder, so I knew I had a cousin and this and that. And then, you know, my mother was with another man. I don't know. I never met them again after that.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Of course, my mother didn't have a life, so she didn't have a home. You didn't have an address. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she kept moving.
She kept moving with her,
Until she married.
until she married Uncle. Yeah,
Philip.
until she married Philip. So,
And that's who Scott is named after. Scott Paul is named after that Philip.
well, she was married 25 years to him already. You know, when she met him, I started having a life. But when she met him, I met Dad very soon afterwards.
Yeah.
I was, let's see. But he, of course, he wanted an apartment. He got 3 rooms. I slept in the living room, opened the couch. So, but my mother, from necessity, I remember one summer the 2 of us just gave up the apartment. We went up to the mountains, and she worked as a chambermaid, and I worked as a governess, and the little kids while the mothers were eating. We did that for a summer. I remember that.
But she did fun things with you. She used to take you to the beach on the train.
Well, at some times she was married. At some times there was somebody in the house to make those times she used to take me to the beach, or you know whatever she did. I remember. Let me see. I remember one time she took a place down in Coney Island. I think she knew Philip already. She met. Don't forget she was married to Philip for way over 25 years. I remember him. Neil, do you remember him?
Philip? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, but you had to be before you were born. I'm trying to think. No, I was single before, you know, my mother was married and I was single because he married me off. He was the one who paid for the wedding. In the Twin Cantors, that's why I had a wedding, because he was, Daniel paid it off. However, he insisted on his friends coming. I don't even know them, but they came. It didn't mean anything. It was funny, I'm trying to think. But up until that point, it was a jumble. I couldn't even, you know, because I went from one place to another place. My sister, too, she probably would have been able to tell you more stories, because she was older.
Yes,
She never went to, she graduated public school and went right into a business school. And then from business school, they get you a job when you went to business school.
Right.
She got a job. She was older. I do remember I went to high school, Washington Irving. I went to high school. We lived in the east side. My mother used to give me 10 cents to take the trolley.
Oh,
And I would save the 10 cents and walk. But I wasn't alone. I had 2 or 3 other girls would always be coming with me or something. And I used to go to school, let's say at 9, come back at 3, I don't know. My sister would go to work at 8 and come back. I used to wear her clothes. And I used to run home, hang it up quietly. She didn't know sometimes. She wore my clothes, huh? You know, but I didn't have, you know, I had no clothes in that, or the same clothes or whatever. I remember doing that.
that's
And then
funny.
I remember but that already, I was in high school.
Yeah, high school.
High school already, I remember, because I think she had a Nathan Davidson that she was, I think she was married to him. A Nathan Davidson.
Who? Your sister?
No, my mother.
Your mother.
No, my sister only married once.
Yeah.
A Nathan Davidson, and he was the one who tried to take what little money she had. She threw him out. I remember that, arguments and everything, and threw him out of the house and something.
Huh.
I remember that. But he was the one who insisted we moved to Bensonhurst. So I went to Bensonhurst. My sister was a young girl then, dating. I remember that. I was a kid. I was about 6, 7 years younger than my sister.
Yeah.
You know, there was a big difference.
What apartment was it where I stayed a number of times?
Brighton Beach.
You were
And then
born.
it was in Brooklyn, I think. And then she used to make me Mama Ligo all the time.
Up in the mountains? Before the mountains?
It wasn't in the mountains, in the city, someplace. And I spent.
Well,
some
they
time
had
there.
an apartment. They had an apartment.
Remember there was
I remember going with you. I was married and going with you to the apartment.
Remember the window right by the kitchen? You can look right down onto the street.
How old
It was
were
at
you
least
then?
3, 4. He must have been about a year, 2 years.
How could he remember?
Well, maybe it was 3 years.
Yeah.
Don't forget, there was 3 years between the two of them. You know, when I was carrying
I remember.
Kenny, we lived
to
already in Stuyvesant Avenue. That was fancy
It was
already.
probably a pull-out couch.
So Dad had gotten himself a job. Uncle Bill got
Yeah.
Dad this job, and he used to go from Brooklyn all the way to New Jersey every morning
Oh my.
because he wanted the job. And
Yeah.
finally, they kept him on. They gave him a route. And if you got a route, you got the truck, and
Yeah.
you got a route. Finally, from there, we moved to 34th Street. He was 6 months old. Why? Because Lee and Bill wanted to live with us. Yeah, well, he was in the army, and she was living alone. So we'll pay rent, and then I hated it. I detested it. I used to walk with him on 34th Street. You know, in the busy 34th Street, I used to walk with
The
the
busy
carriage.
area,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, what happened finally was Bill wanted Lee to come to where he was out south, down south in an army base.
Oh.
So if she went, we had to leave too. So Dad went and got his sister's apartment. He went himself, and he got this apartment in Stuyvesant Avenue with the Ferguson. And the reason he got it because Dad did not look Jewish, and his name was Hilsen. Because she was stunned when we got there, and she found out that we. You understand? Because they weren't taking Jews in that
And that
apartment.
was not the Jewish side of town either.
No,
where I
well, they
lived.
didn't have such a thing as Jewish side of
Yeah,
town
they
in Brooklyn.
did. In
On Stuyvesant
Irvington?
Avenue, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, maybe later Stuyvesant Avenue became Jewish, you know. But this was a garden apartment on this side of the street. And the reason he got it, I remember him coming home with the truck, and they were moving, and I went with the kid. I was not pregnant then. If I was pregnant, I didn't have Kenny. Kenny.
Kenny was born in Irvington.
That's right. I was already in Irvington. Kenny was born. So I only went with him. And his name was Hilsen. And Dad never looked Jewish. He looked more like, I don't know what. You know, he didn't look Jewish, you know. And so they rented us the apartment. And I remember in order to get, at that time, apartments so hard to get because people were going in the army and things like that. I had to pay for, she had hangings on the wall, mirrors. I had to pay for the mirror to her in order to get the apartment. So we did it at that time, and we got the apartment. I have no idea how much rent we were. I had no idea anything like that. And we got the apartment, the 3-bedroom apartment with a big foyer. The foyer was big enough I could keep a table in it, you know. And three apartment, right. And when I moved in, my mother came with me and my sister, you know, at that time. And there was a telephone there.
I don't remember
Installed, 1 bedroom.
Huh?
And then we
How many bedrooms was this?
1 bedroom, and then we moved into the living room and made that a bedroom and gave both kids our bedroom. And we moved into the living room, made a bedroom out of that because we couldn't.
Yeah.
So it's
And my sister said, you ought to keep the telephone. And I said something like, it's $5 more. You ought to keep it. It lives so far from us now. Here and there. That's how we got a telephone. So that's the only reason, because it was in there.
Yeah.
Because
how
nobody had
funny.
telephones, you know. This is going back a long time.
Yeah.
Wow, you're bringing up memories.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I like the story you told yesterday about going to the summer camp the one year.
Oh yeah, that was during the period when my mother worked.
Mm-hmm.
During the period when my mother the 3 of us were in this in this bedroom, and my mother
That's
worked.
when you had 2 boarders.
2 boarders.
Yeah.
And my mother worked, and my sister was older. She was able to read, and I don't know. She was in high school. I don't know. No, she never went to high school. So she was in. Anyway, she saw in the paper an ad for summer camp. You know, come to whatever it is. Come. She said, you know, this would be good for me because summer was coming. I wasn't in school anymore, you know. My mother was a little bit nervous, you know. She was still a mother, you know. I didn't know she had a boyfriend at then. I really don't know. I cannot keep track. And so they called these people up, and they made an appointment. They came down. I remember distinctly, it was a Saturday afternoon, and she made me take a bath and get all dressed and wait for them to come. Now, look how would you remember that. And they came. Who came? A woman, another woman, and a man.
Wow.
Yeah, a man and a woman, and a sister. A man, and they were the founders of the thing. And they said to me, they're talking, and I hear them say, well, the fee is so much. And mother said, oh, I can't pay that. That's too much. And what I remember, not from what I heard, but from what they told me, I heard later on. You know, mother would tell somebody else, and that they said, well, how much can you afford? This something. Well, you're such a clean lady, and you're so honest and everything. She's such a darling little girl. We'll do it for whatever. I don't know, whatever the price is. So I was able to go on whatever they paid.
Whatever they agreed.
Yeah, and I had to meet them someplace, you know. And we went with their car. She picked up a few kids, something, and we went to this camp. Well, this camp is the first time I realized it. A lot of things. First of all, they gave her a list of things to buy, which is crazy. She never bought anything, you know. Pillows and pillowcases, you know. At that time, you had to bring sheets and pillows. Oh, no, I don't know what my mother sent. I don't know.
Yeah.
I took a valise and I went. I have no idea. My sister did most of it. I got to say that. I don't remember any of that. Now, I remember the camp I told you. And the camp was little bungalows, but they were not whole bungalows. They had the bottoms of the bungalows. From the bottoms up there was screening, and then there was a roof. You know, like little huts. And there were maybe 3 children in bunk beds and 1 woman. And we all loved her. She was a young girl. We all loved her. I remember that. And when you had to go wash up, you had to go to the main one. So everybody. But I had a toothbrush. I remember that. I don't know if I had toothpaste.
Oh.
Anyway, oh yeah, it was. But these were all children from different upbringing. I was the only one from the East Side.
Oh.
The only one. And they really taught me. How did they teach me? I kept my mouth shut. And I was telling her, every day you sat at a table, I don't know how many kids or anything, and one would become a monitor. She had to go up to the front and get the food, cereal for 6, or I don't know, those things. And I remember they would say, oh, we're having watermelon. I don't know what the hell watermelon was. Used to call it watermelon in the East Side. They used to say, I didn't know the food. I used to keep my mouth shut and see what it was, you know, that they were talking. I learned a new language.
Interesting.
Because the East Side was low, you know, they lived this way.
Foreigners.
It was like foreigners.
And what was the other thing? Oh, corn on the cob.
Corn, I never knew cook. Who called the corn on the cob? We called it hot corn.
Hot corn?
Hot corn, that's what it was called. What, corn on the cob? What was that? You know, I'm just giving you all the thing. But I remember being watching everything because they'd make fun. Kids made fun, you know, especially what you wore or anything. I remember that one of the 2 of them went to a store and brought me back shorts to wear. Evidently, I didn't even have anything. Well, I remember that. Well, they taught us how to swim, taught us how to row a boat. I mean, this was part of the thing. So things like that I learned there. I learned how to play jump rope, whatever the thing is. So I came back from there. I was like not of the East Side. That's why I went to the library so much. You know what I mean?
You didn't fit in anymore.
I didn't, yeah.
Where you came from.
Yeah.
You'd been
not that I had
exposed
that
to new
much.
things.
Not that I had that
just
much.
learned.
Right.
I
You've just
learned
been
things,
exposed to
but
new
I was
things.
still had to go to school or anything. But I remember it was like a different world. A different world. And at that time, I didn't have enough brains to know it was a different world. I just knew, you know, I didn't want to be made fun of, and if 2 of them would do that, then I would do the same thing or something like that. But I remember that so distinctly, being different. I remember that so distinctly, being different. They taught us, every day I had to go to school a little bit. They taught me division, a little thing, an hour for school, and it was a very good camp.
Yeah.
Very good camp. On the other side of the lake was the boys' camp. I mean, it was a big thing. They were very nice about it. I never went back again. No. By that time, maybe in that winter, my mother met somebody else. I don't know. I never went back again. But I went there that one summer, and I have a picture. I think I learned to read there. I have a picture. Someday when you go through all my things, you'll see it. I'm sitting on a rock. Couldn't have been more than 5 years old, reading a book. And they're taking a picture of me, a snapshot. And then she gave it me. Here, this is for you, Eve. Even then, always with a book. And it's, but I remember that was a different world for me. And so how much could I have been? 5 or 6 at the most. Because I know they taught us arithmetic. So maybe I was even 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Because I remember they taught us a simple way of doing, I don't know what, but it was something we did, and I learned it from them.
Yeah.
So when I went to school, I knew it. I remember the one, whatever they did, that. And I remember learning how to swim. And also, they taught me how to float.
Was it on a lake up there?
It was on a lake.
Yeah.
On the lake Ticonderoga.
Oh.
It was up like a
that was far up.
Yes, all the far up and almost near Canada.
Yeah.
It was on the border between
exactly.
that. Yeah. And I remember doing arts and crafts. And I loved it. Doing arts and crafts. You used to take the bark off a tree.
Yeah.
And make little canoes, and everybody brought home things, and bookmark, and this. Everybody brought home. That one summer, I remember so much about that.
Now, did Grandma come up and visit you at all?
Are you crazy? I was glad they sent me. Sometimes they sent me food. They sent me boxes of candy sometimes. My sister did this. Nobody came to visit me. I was there.
I wanted to ask you before, was Grandpa Phil the only man who ever asked you to marry him?
Huh?
No.
I knew it! I knew it!
Well, I used to go with Seymour. Seymour had that too.
Seymour? Who's Seymour?
Seymour is who Phil stole her away from.
Seymour.
Weren't you dating Seymour before you met Grandpa Phil?
About the same time.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we went to the beach. The beach, everybody knows everybody. But Phil sort of hung on to me, and you sort of coupled off, And then a big thing for us was to go. A big thing, the boys lived over there, and all the 5 girls lived here, and over there were 4 boys. And we used to meet at the beach in the morning. And a big thing was to go get an English muffin and a cup of coffee. That was our breakfast. And if he treated you, that was a big thing. And then he taught me how to ride a bicycle.
Oh.
I never knew how to. You rented a bike for an hour, a quarter or something. And he taught me how to ride a bike.
Oh.
He taught you how to drive a car too, didn't he?
Yeah, but that was the way I was married with 2 kids.
Yeah,
but he taught me how to do that. And then I remember, this was the whole summer long. He used to come up every Friday. I had a job then. And with Mary, he used to come up every Friday, either a bus or a train. I can't remember. And we go. In the beginning, we used to try and get someone to take us out for dinner every Saturday night until I got sort of together with Dad. And don't forget, he didn't have so much money. So, and we stayed. Now, that's when I was at Brighton Beach, the first year in Brighton Beach. Had a lot of boyfriends there. Mm-hmm. Boyfriends would take us out. You'd be at the beach all day Saturday, and the thing was to get a date to take you out for dinner Saturday night. So I had a lot of those. I used to get sometimes for Mary. She wasn't, this was Morris's sister, Mary,
right,
who was a year older than me, if not more. I say, all right, and that was that year, so I must have been 18. I don't know, I was working already, so I had to be 19.
What kind of restaurants would you go to for dinner?
Who knows? You can't remember that. It couldn't have been fancy restaurants in those days.
Did you ever think of going to college?
Oh, I would have loved to go. Are you crazy? Only reason I finished high school, I was too small to get a job. And I remember my mother saying, let her stay in school already. She can't get a job. Too small. That's the only reason they let me stay in. I got a diploma.
Goodness.
That's the only reason. I would have loved to have gone to school. I loved school. But anyway, that was it. So,
Brighton Beach.
Huh?
Brighton Beach.
No, that was Manhattan Beach. Brighton Beach, no, that was my trip. Manhattan Beach, where we had the bungalow. No, Oriental Beach, which was the next to Manhattan. Manhattan was the fancy one. Oriental was the next fancy one, where you can get a locker for $25, and 2 people shared a locker. So you just went. That was before I met Phil. The next year, these friends wanted to share a place in Rockaway, and there you had rented a a room, we rented 2 rooms and a kitchen. So Mary said, well, I go with her. I was sure. And Muriel, I must say, gave me the money, I think, too.
Oh.
I think, or they chipped, I don't know. I got in. I remember her saying. So there we used to go either Friday night or Saturday. I don't remember that much. Saturday morning. And there, Dad came to visit. I was on a date. I don't know with whom. I was on a date, and he came into he was picked up by the other girls on the boardwalk. Everybody got kids on the boardwalk,
Yeah.
And they came back to our house, and he went, and, well, who's in this room? Well, Mary and Eve, and well, what are they like? So we had our pictures on the wall. And he said, I'm going to come back the next day, we're going to meet her. Came back the next day, and then the next day he asked me to go for breakfast. But, and then little by little, I'd go to the beach and drink. He sort of took over a little bit, although I still had boyfriend. I still had Seymour. Seymour had his father and mother had a bakery on Rockaway, and he worked in the bakery. He had a truck. He delivered things and everything, and he really liked me, and his family really liked. Now Seymour was my height, and a little chunky, but he was nice. I remember him. He said, Eve, come on. I remember him. I'll take it, Eve. I'm telling my mother would do this and this and this. But then I met Phil, and Phil was very good looking. Tall, thin, good looking guy, and he could swim and he can talk and he can do everything, and what can I tell you? The end of the summer when the other girls said, well, that's the end of the romance. And I say, well, Phil will never come all the way from Bronx to Brooklyn. Never. At that time, it was an hour trip on the subway, on the L. You had to change once and everything. Never come. But that time, at the end of the summer, we knew that Penny and Jack were there. I wasn't so much with the girls in the house. Penny and Jack and Phil were best of friends, and they lived in this house there. And he had brought Penny from the Bronx. Penny lived had a sister down there, so we would go there. But Penny wasn't from the group that I went with, so Jack and Phil and Penny and I would go together. Have pictures of the 4 of us sitting by. Oh, when you go through my album someday, you'll see all these pictures of. And we did everything together, and because Penny's sister had a place near the water, in Far Rockaway, but near the water, and she let us come every weekend down there. And we lay on the beach anyway, and the beach is all free, and we go together. I remember that. That was a nice thing. Now, Penny was up in the Bronx. Now, where did Pauline and Helen come in? Pauline was my best friend, and Helen, I met them. I think I met them at, I tell you where I met them. I told you my mother went one summer worked as a chambermaid, and I worked it there. Pauline's brother owned, it's called Maple Court Guest House. It was a little farm. We rented rooms, and they made dinner.
Like a
and
bed and breakfast kind of?
No, 3 meals a day.
Oh.
Yeah. And so
And they
I
had
worked.
little bungalows.
A room.
Yeah.
And I worked. And my mother did the laundry. She counted the sheets. You had to change the sheet. But I worked as a governess.
Like a
Now,
counselor.
yeah, but they didn't have during the day. What they did was while the parents were eating, they wanted you to watch the kids. Just 1 hour, breakfast, lunch. And you didn't get paid, but you got tips from the people who did that. So I remember doing that. Now, Pauline was older than me. Helen was younger than me. But when the 3 of us became friends, it was their brother who owned this thing.
The whole thing.
Now, a year after that, I went without my mother, and just as a governess. So I became very friendly with Pauline and Helen. Very friendly, to the point that Pauline had a full house. She had brothers and sisters and a father who did everything, but no mother. The father was really a takeover father. Before they had meals, he went them. Remember, early in the morning, he'd go down and get bagels and whatever. He was there. Now, I would stay in her house. I would sleep over in her house. We became very friendly, and I sleep over in her house. I'm trying to get where it isn't. Now, she met Herbie. She met Herbie and she was going. Pauline got married first. I went to her. I knew where I was already engaged. I was like going with Dad. She got married. Penny got married after me. Meanwhile, I met this other girl, Ruth and Monroe. They lived on the same floor. We had bunches of friends. All I remember is all these friends and all the time, you know, from one year to the next. I think I went as many as 3 summers up to Maple Court for the summers. My mother would.
What city was that in? What town?
Ellenville,
New York?
Catskill
New
Mountains.
York, the
Up in the
Catskills.
Catskills.
Yeah, the Catskills. So I remember that. So it was during the high school, I guess my high school years, or when I started working already. It seems to me I wouldn't go up there for the summer. So it had to be in high school. And I didn't always have a job. Finally I got the job. The last job I had, Lee got it for me. Lee was Phil's sister, and she had a very good job. And one of the people that worked for her needed a kid, someone, and she made me, and I got that job. And I had that job until I got pregnant. It's a little job. I don't know. It was called Mills Uniform. So I worked a little bit in the office, a little bit in the factory, whatever they needed me, you know, something like that. And then then we got married, and I became pregnant, and that was it. I told you, as soon as I met Phil, but Phil used to come visit me. He used to take the train and come in every now and then. At that time, I was living with my sister. And I don't know where my mother was, I'm trying to think. But I was living with my sister. And Phil used to come. And if she let him sleep over, he'd sleep on the floor, you know. But I used to,
boy.
yeah. Well, because it was a big, but I used to go to Pauline, who lived in the Bronx. So I would go up there and stay one weekend. But he would, you know, we did the, let's say, for winter. By the time the spring came again, we were.
You got married?
No, I don't know about getting that. I don't remember. I don't remember how long I was dating with him. It couldn't have been too long. Maybe a year. You know, I remember he gave me money every Friday. We put it in the bank account.
Oh.
Money. Maybe it was $5. And we saved up, and when we got to a certain amount, we said we can get married.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, I remember that. Mostly he put it in, not me. He had a job at that time. Because he didn't stop working on that until Bill got him the job in the uniform business. He wanted in the works way that he was willing to go all the way from where we lived, all the way up there. Now I lived in New York, on Featherbed Lane in New York. Featherbed Lane in New York, across the street from Shakespeare Avenue, on which the New York University is right now. We were all the way up. I was up in front. I remember that, and that was, I'll never forget, on the 5th floor. My mother said, "How could you get up here?" Well, we didn't think it was. We thought it was fine. 5 floors or what? We didn't care. I remember my mother came to visit me once or twice. She couldn't. We lived off Featherbed Lane. And I only know I used to yell at Dad. He had a little car. You're riding around in the car. You're riding around in my living room.
Yeah.
But we didn't even have a living room. Phil's father paid for a bedroom set for us. That was a wedding gift. But he insisted on going with us to pick the wedding, the set. And I didn't want the set he picked, you know. So Phil sort of talked him into, and I got the set I wanted. That was a big wedding present.
That was an important decision for him to take your side as an early newlywed.
You have no idea how things were there. I remember we were living in Shakespeare Avenue, Featherbed Lane, Shakespeare Avenue, and we sat down very serious, and he had a salary, he was getting his salary, and I made a budget. All right, I budgeted $6 a week for food for him and me.
Wow.
I remember that distinctly. You can't even fathom that.
$6. Oh my God.
$6 a week was for food.
You
for
can't
him
have a
and me.
meal for $6 these days.
I just show you how I was.
McDonald's.
And I thought he was being so great about it. Oh, at that time I had a job. I was working in who the hell got me a job? I know who got me the job. I told you my neighbor Ruth, we've been on a honeymoon. Her husband was the manager in this shade factory, and he got me a job in that shade factory until I was pregnant. I quit, pregnant with him, and I quit. But I had a job, and Phil had a job, you know, and he hated it, the baking. Well, it was, you know, it wasn't a good thing. But Bill told him there may be an opening. They took him for an opening. He wouldn't even tell them where he lived because if they lived in Jersey, they didn't want anybody living in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
So he wouldn't tell them where he lived. And when we got the job, he tried out a week and they liked him. Then he told them, the guy said, "You crazy?" He said, "Well, I'm going to move, you know." But that's what he did. Amazing, right? The things we went through. You think you do everything, you know. And then, now when you tell your kids this, what you're doing, they'll think you're slumming also.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
But all these things, it's a lot of living. A lot of living, a lot of years passed. So,
Well, Grandma, that was fun. Thank you.
yeah, but when Dad got the job in the uniform business, and I moved to, from that minute on, everything was
Good.
normal.
Yeah.
You know, we worked together, did together, then Bill and Lee came and moved
Yeah.
near us, and that's so. Well, then we used to go see my mother. I used to take you by train and go see my mother. And then, you know what happened? This is something funny. I was pregnant with Kenny. Late. It was between 6 and 7 months. I went to see my mother. We drove. We had a car. Dad had a car. We drove to see my mother. On the way in, there was a smallpox scare in New York City. And in order to come in, you had to get an injection. Right? And I remember they opened the car and the man said, "How far are you?" And I said, whatever I said, 6 or 7. He said, "It's all right, give her the injection." I had the baby 2 days later.
Wow.
It couldn't have
Kenny?
been 6 months.
Then it had to be 7 months.
Yeah.
Kenny was born in 7 months.
Because
2
of
days
that?
later, 3 days later, I gave birth. Kenny didn't have any nails when he was born. He wasn't circumcised till he was a month old. But he was, that's why I say he was always a little colic baby or something. He wasn't colic, he was like Josh, full face like that. Even though he was, even though he threw up at
Premature.
every little thing. Remember him throwing up, Neil? Remember me rocking the carriage? You stand there and rock this and rock it.
Should I go wake up? Number one?
It's
Yeah.
a little after.
It's 4:30.
It's 4:30.
4:25.
Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Come out. I'll bring him out here. I don't want him to wake up too late and have to go to bed. I guess.
He'll go to bed late anyway with
Reese,
Reese. And,
you know.
He went to bed pretty easy last night, and he had good night.
oh, but when he laid down there, that was the cutest.
Yeah.
When I
Three books
he
and
said,
he
"I
was
want to
out."
lay down on the couch." I said, "You can't lay down on the couch. Take a pillow." Okay, and he took the pillow, and I said, just looked at me, and I said, "Now close your eyes," and that was it. I couldn't believe it. I thought he's fooling. Yeah. What's your first memory, Phil, Neil?
Of
Your
Dad?
first memory of anything? What's your first memory? You had a normal life, so.
Well, like I said, I do remember staying at Grandma's. It had to be in New York City
Oh
somewhere.
yeah, New York City, yeah.
And, you know, Philip was there.
Yeah.
And we used
Oh
to-
yeah, they were married and had a little
I
apartment.
used to sleep in that living room. It
We
was
used
a
to
pull-out
sleep.
couch or
That's
something.
right. We slept in the living. She had a bedroom and a living room and a kitchen.
Yeah.
When I was single, I was there, and I slept in always a pulled-out bed. I never had a bed of my own. I slept in a pulled-out bed in the living room. So when we came to visit, I would just pull out that same bed.
And she used
And-
to make me Mama Liga all the time.
Yeah, that's right. He loved
You know what
Mama
Mama
Liga.
Liga is?
Mama Liga is a yellow corn,
It's cornmeal.
cornmeal, yellow cornmeal,
Spread the cornmeal out.
and you put
Then-
butter and cheese on it,
Cheese.
cheese, crumbled
And
cheese,
sour cream.
and sour cream.
Yum.
It happens to have been
ew.
very good, but he liked it, and she got
Great.
And she held on. She got something that he liked. So, yeah. You remember Grandpa? You remember him at all, Grandpa Philip?
Yeah, sure. I remember him there and then up in the mountains.
In the mountains, yeah. Then what they did, well, I was pretty good
When
about
did we go to Monticello? How old was I then?
you went to Monticello. Kenny was born already, good. So you had to be about 5, 6. What my mother did, she wanted to go to Florida. And my Philip could work any place. He was a craftsman in the bakery line. He made things that people were after him. He was a very high professional. He never had to worry about a job. He always had something for him. I'm talking about Philip. So my mother decided they're going to give up the house in Brooklyn and they're going to go to Florida. So my mother, who couldn't read English, got tickets for everything, got the place, found the place down. Wait, she packed up everything, the two of them, and she went by bus, got tickets for a bus to go all the way down to Florida. My mother and Philip, listen to this, she took food with her because I think I had to sleep on a bus for a day to get down there at that time. I remember, and she got in the bus and she went all the way down with him to the terminal, wherever it was. And then I remember distinctly, then they went and found where you put quarters in. She took all their luggage and put it in the quarter thing, and she went looking for a place. And then she took the thing down to the beach, and she found a room. You know, she found a room, and he went to the. She found a room, and he went to the bakery and got a job immediately. Before she got anything, he had a job already. And then they went back and they got their things out, and she lived in this one-room apartment with a patio that she can sit outside. But he had the job, but he always was able to get a job. And now, so she was in Florida, still sleeping?
Sleepy.
Huh?
Sleepy. Waking up.
And then when she went to Florida, and as it came in the summer, she wanted to come up. So they found this place in the mountains in Monticello. And what was it? It was a little cottage behind a big house. And they rented the house, it was like a garage that they converted. That's what it was. It was a garage they converted into a bedroom. And a little sink, a little stove, a little this, and a bathroom. So she stayed there and paid for it. And he got himself a job immediately in one of the fancy places in Ellenville. And so they used to stay there for the summer and go back. And they did it for many years.
Ellenville or Monticello?
Monticello. They did it for many years.
Monticello.
Yeah? And they used to go back and forth. Even at that, my mother
She was amazing.
made it. Couldn't write, couldn't read, but Philip could read English. I don't think he could write it, but he read books. He kept reading books, but he read it in different languages.
Did he have a car then?
No.
I think so. He walked into Monticello every day.
They didn't have a car. Neither of them could drive. Neither of them could get a license.
You got a hitch into it, I remember?
This I don't.
Into the town.
We had a car. We had the car. Dad had a car because we drove up there.
Yeah, when we were there.
Yeah.
Right. But he didn't.
But then he had to hitch into work or something. Maybe
Right.
somebody picked him up every day.
Or he had to walk home.
Or he had to walk home. Always, whenever he came out of the job, every night when he came from work, a big bag of cake and fruit that was entitled. You're a baker, you're entitled to take that home.
He had to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and all the neighbors knew it because how much can you eat?
And you get more tomorrow.
You get more tomorrow. But he was the one, but the hotels used to be after him because he was the one that invented the, which paper was that? He invented...
To the bagel?
Yeah.
Let's put a hole in it.
No. Don't forget, you had to think about doing that. He invented
Yali?
maybe the Bayali. He invented one of them. He did. And the first time he made it, then the hotels got a hold of it, and that's what they wanted.
Is that right?
Really, one of them, I can't remember which one. Either it was a bagel or it was a Bayali. Probably the Bayali, because the bagel, you made an oil, big stacks of oil. By the Bayali, you do something else. And all the hotels used to like his kind of bread, so they'd go to this baker. When he died, he had a week's salary coming to him that they brought to him because he worked up until and he died in such a funny way.
How did he die? I wasn't around. I
No.
never met him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were just playing cards.
never
or
met him?
whatever,
No.
And he just decided to take a nap. Right?
How did you never meet him if
And
How old was
Oh,
he?
that's right. You knew him. Yeah, no, you didn't know
Before
him.
me,
Yeah, you didn't know
I
him.
don't know. He's probably in his 80s, wasn't he?
Oh, I have no idea. Probably at least 80. He was a very rich man at one time.
Hmm.
We used to go on the Lincoln Road and he used to sit, not on Lincoln, not Lincoln Road, Miami, and he used to say, I own that building, I own that building, I own that
Is
building.
that right?
He was a gambler. He had a first wife, no kids,
Hmm.
and she died of cancer or something, I don't know. And then he met my mother. There was nobody in between. But he did have a nephew, Manis. Do you remember Manis?
Manners.
He was here established, and his nephew Manis wanted to come. He went back to Europe to get Manis to bring him here. He got stuck in England because they wouldn't take him into the United States. So he worked there for a year to make something to be able to take Manis back into the United States.
Wow.
He had this is things I heard about Blake. That's the kind of man he was. He was much older
Where
than
was he originally from?
Russia. Woo. Real like a Cossack. He looked it. He looked like the part of Russia, and he read in Russia, and he was.
Where was
he-
your father from?
My father was from Odessa. My father was like a New Yorker. Odessa in Russia was a city.
Yeah,
That's it. My
country.
mother lived in Little Kiev, a little town.
Yeah.
My father came from Odessa. He came about 10 years before my mother. He was established. My father painted murals in ships.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where the artistry comes in. He painted that. He was a young, I've got pictures of him. He looks like a young, he opened a dance studio with his brother, the one whose name is Simon. They opened a dance studio, the two of them. Yeah. Anyway,
where
he
did they
met,
open
now
the
wait, I got the story. My grandmother had a few children. She must have had about 4 or 5 or something. The oldest brother came to America, okay? And he became established. I don't know what, I have no idea. But my mother was born and she was a young girl. The grandmother didn't want her to be there because in Russia the young girls were just brutalized by the Russians. So my grandmother, who had a little grocery, had a little linen store. She had other children. Took the youngest one, who was my mother, brought her to America, the two of them, to bring to the brother so that she had some place to live. So she moved my mother into the brother's house and went back. Got killed there, but she went back. She didn't want it. She just wanted the daughter to be here. Now, my mother lived in her brother's house. My brother, I told